How's it going, everybody? I apologize for the lighting. It's about 5 o'clock or so on this lovely Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. I am at well, it's not mine, at the compost facility at the dairy farm, at our family farm that I work at. I was turning some special compost. I have been giving some tender love and care, trying to get the mix right to where it smells like the forest floor, as they say it should smell, so that it is peak peak perfect for a garden that I'd like to have and our family would like to have this next year. So I'm going to show you. Let's flip this around. This is the composting facility that um, my dad built several years ago. There are 7 of these massive bays. That's a skid steer, so that gives you, well, obviously you guys know that's a skid steer. I don't know why I said that, but that gives you a scale. I think these are something like 12 or 15-ish feet wide and maybe 20 feet deep and about 8 feet tall. So we use our bed pack material from our young cattle pens that we use sawdust to bed, and we use this is like half sawdust, half rye, chopped rye. Ooh, that's hot. Chopped rye straw. We use straw for our freshening pens where our cows and heifers calf. So when I first fill up a bay, it will look something like this. This has all settled about 2.5, 3 feet down. It was up above the concrete. It'll settle down, it'll compost. And we're not just using the bed pack, we're also using any animals that were sick that we had to put down, any animals that have died. They all go into this compost. And so there might be, right now, we milk like 1,800-ish. One of my siblings is going to call me out. Cows right now, that's the parlor over there. And so animals die on any farm. So there might be 1, 2, 6. There might be 6 or 7 cows or heifers in here, large animals, and then a handful of calves, either stillborn calves that didn't make it when they were born that are composted, or really have hardly any calves that get sick and die now because that's done at a separate place. But this is what it looks like. So it'll stay this way for several weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, depending. Then, once we get another bay that looks like this, we'll have 2 of the bays, then we'll scoop this bay out and put it into an empty bay and do the same thing with another bay that would look just like this. So we'll consolidate 2 of these into one. And that physical mixing breaks up the big, nasty, decomposed, soft, stinky cow carcass that is now turned into jello. And it mixes that in with the bed pack material that has a higher carbon to nitrogen ratio, so that the nitrogen nutrient heavy carcass material has more access to carbon surface area to be able to metabolize all the stuff that's going on. Do I sound very scientific? I bet I sound pretty scientific. So once it gets mixed, it might look something like this. You can see the bones. Is it pretty? It's a little. Here, let me clean the lens off real quick. Is that better? You'll see there's bones in there. And then once it's like that, we might consolidate 2 bays like that again. Something like that, until all the animal is broken down and the bones are soft. And once that happens, we'll use that as fertilizer on our fields all around the farm or wherever we need an extra boost of fertility, if the ground is sandy or something like that. So all of our animals that either die or we have to put down, or stillborns. They all go through this system and get turned into compost. This is my garden compost. So I have added more carbon to this small amount than we do to that. So I've taken something that looks like that, put it out here, and taken junk sawdust that was really wet and that wouldn't be good for pens, and mixed it in to that sort of material so that I was adding more carbon into it. And I probably did that to where I mixed this much nitrogen-rich compost with equal parts carbon. So sawdust or a really, really carbon-heavy bed pack in a pen that we bedded really often and didn't have a lot of manure in it. And I did that twice, 2 different times. So picture I had this much really, really nutrient-rich. And this stuff doesn't compost totally, so it's kind of stinky when it's done. I didn't want it to be stinky, so picture this much of that, not quite totally finished compost, with 3 more rows of just carbon to make this. And as you can see, this is really, really broken down. That it's almost like soil. See some small pieces of wood chip in here from the sawdust that aren't totally broken down. And of course some plastic from junk feed that we used to compost with. It still has lots of bones. So that looks like some sort of small hip bone of maybe a calf. Come down here. There's a leg bone, I think. Again, I sound really, really smart, I'm sure. There's a hip. That's a jaw, right? So all the bones aren't totally gone. So I would like to sift through this with some sort of screen. I don't know what would work well. There's probably 10 yards here, I would think. And I want to get all the bones out and all the clumps. See, some of these clumps are the amalgamations of muscle tissue mixed with sawdust that are almost composted, but since they're so sticky, they don't bust up when I turn this. So they're kind of a richer compost chunk that I would have to like physically bust up into smaller pieces. But I'd like to sift this somehow. But just to give you an idea, this compost here, and if I smell it, I stick my hand in this. It is warm. I turned this over today. This smells like the forest floor. It doesn't look very black that way. That's about how black it is. It's like dirt. And it smells like soil, all this stuff. You can see there's some sand in it. That's what those little white spots are. But this compost is it's almost 2 years old. So I've been just having this back here, adding carbon to it. If it didn't smell right, I would add more carbon to try to get it to smell more like soil. And every now and then I would turn it. And just recently, I put it out into this windrow so that I could easily push it this way, let it sit for a week, push it this way, push it back, push it this way, because we have the machines here to do it really easily. And I wanted to physically break it up so it was a more consistent, smaller, particle size, because there was some big chunks in here that I wanted to bust up. And then you introduce oxygen, so the microbes have more ability to grow and multiply so that they can break down the stuff more. So I've read. So I've seen people do this all the time on YouTube, where they'll take pallets and link pallets together and make a box and do a compost pile that way, because you need a 3 foot tall by 3 foot wide by 3 foot long cube of material to hold enough heat to start composting. So if you're going to do compost at home, That's about the size. That's about as small as you can go. But I was just composting a cow just before I started the video, and I was pulling material off of our bed pack stockpile right there. Because we have corn growing and hay growing, we didn't have any fields to spread this on until recently when we harvested some cereal grains. Well, I say we. I didn't do anything. My dad and some other guys did. That pile's about 10 feet tall and maybe 30 feet long and 30 feet that way. And the middle of this pile is starting to compost really well. So when I cut into it, the center of that pile is deep, rich, black, all broken down. The straw was broken into little chunks, and it was really hot. So I've been told your compost technically isn't done, I guess, until it stops heating up. I don't know if that's true. Let me know. But I just wanted to show you guys my little compost project and what a compost system on a conventional dairy farm looks like. And most, if not all, dairy farms are going to have some sort of composting system for their animals. You hear rumors online that conventional dairies throw their animals into the manure pit. I've heard that from people, from more than one person, which logistically you can't do, because if that happened, they would bloat and they would all float to the top. So I mean, just logistically that doesn't really work. But regulation-wise, we're required to have a composting facility for any animals that we dispose of or compost on the farm. So most farms, even conventional dairies, are going to have some sort of composting system for their cull animals or sick animals that died, or stillborn animals you have to put down if they break a leg or something. So I guess that's one wives' tale that I can dispense of here. I didn't see any comments. Let me pull it up. Top chat. I don't see any. So that's it. I just wanted to show you guys our composting system. And thanks to my dad for buying top quality equipment to make our jobs easier here. That's really nice. I remember when we had case skid steers that didn't have side windows or front doors, so you got sawdust in your eyes all the time. Imagine doing this, cutting into a hot, steamy, composted cow carcass and not having a door in front of you. Ugh. Ugh. I would not like that. So that's it for me, guys. I turned this compost, so we're going to let that sit for a little longer. See how it goes. Got to figure out some way to sift it. My arm's getting tired. Wow, I'm such a wimp. And then, yeah, keep going. Lots of compost. And you can compost on a small scale. If your boss doesn't have big machines and lots of carbon and concrete. So I think that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one.